Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be updating the code to the DevWP WordPress training theme. As a theme developer, you're going to have to maintain your code. Why? Well, you don't want your code or your theme to become outdated. You might want to add new features, new functionality, or you might want to refactor your code. And people might be using your theme. So you definitely shouldn't abandon it. So let's jump on the computer and start coding. Alright, so before we begin, this video is part of our Learn to Code a WordPress theme with the DevWP WordPress training theme. If you haven't seen this video first, then definitely check this out. This gives you the foundation for all the code you will need. And if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button over here and the notification icon so whenever I release a new video, you'll be notified. If you want to download all the code for DevWP in advance, you can go over here to my website, picksomeweb.com. and go over here to code your very own WordPress theme with DevWP. It'll take you to this link right here. You fill out the information, and for just $10, you'll have all the code that goes along with this video and the previous video. If you've already purchased the DevWP training theme, thank you very much for supporting the channel. I'll be sending you a new copy of the DevWP theme itself, so definitely look out for that. One thing I do recommend is using a diff checker, like Meld. You can go over here to meldmerge.org. It's a free diff checker. This free tool over here will show you any changes made within a particular file or folder. So for example, we'll go over here. I already have Meld Merge installed on my system. You can create a new comparison. We're going to do a directory comparison. Alright, so here, this is on my local environment, and this is my updated code over here for DevWP. So what I'll do, I'll drag the DevWP training theme right there. Same thing right there. Click compare. It'll process everything, and then it'll show you what files have been changed. So for instance, we're going to be updating the Bootstrap code. We're going to be adding some new features within the themes functions.php file. We're going to remove some stuff over here as well. We're going to be updating the JavaScript from Bootstrap. We're going to be changing the way the link is handled within the footer.php file. We're going to be updating our functions.php file and updating the style.css file as well. You could double click on a file and it'll show you what changes have been made. So I definitely recommend using a diff checker like Meld because it'll streamline your effort instead of having to actually open up each and every single file one by one and identifying what exactly changed. This is a lot more efficient and is definitely the way to go. Fire up your local web server. I'm using MAMP. And open up your text editor. For this video, I'm using the Atom text editor. Then go back to your browser. Once you start MAMP, you can go to My Websites and then go to the local version of your WordPress installation. Alright, so one of the first things we're going to change is the Bootstrap CSS version and JavaScript version. So if we go over here, the getbootstrap.com/docs/4.0 examples, we can click on one of these, right click, open link in a new tab, and then we can view the page source. So if we go over here to the bootstrap.min.css file, you're going to see that it says beta.2. This is the second version of the version 4 of Bootstrap itself. So what you can do is you can select all and copy it, go to your text editor. We're going to go to distribution, CSS, and open up our bootstrap.min.css file. As you see, this is the first version over here because it doesn't say the .2 over here. So we could just select all. That would be Command or Control A, delete it, then right click, and then paste. Now at the bottom, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this over here because we're not using the SaaS version of Bootstrap. Now just press save on that. So that was pretty easy, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the browser, go back to that view source for the get bootstrap, scroll to the bottom, and if it's not in this example, we'll go to another example over here. We'll select the example that has navigation on it. We'll view the page source. Scroll down and you're going to see over here the bootstrap.min.js file. Click on that, select all, copy, go back to your text editor, close out of this one for now. And if you remember in the functions.php file, we were working with the bootstrap.min.js file that's located in the source folder right over here. So open that one up, Control or Command A to select all, delete it, and then paste the new version in. Again, we're going to remove the the source map option from the bottom part right there. And now we have the updated version for the JavaScript. Now you could also just go to the Bootstrap website and just download the files itself. And this will give you the current version for the beta 2. Alright, so another thing that we want to do is we're going to go over here and we're going to take a look at the popper.min.js file. The one that Bootstrap uses itself is a little bit different from the one that's released from Popper itself. So what I do is I just copy the one that's being used on the examples by Bootstrap. So Control or Command A to select all, copy it, go back to your text editor, and we're going to add a new file over here. In the JS folder right here, new file. We're going to call this one popper.min.js. And we're going to paste that code right there. And we're going to save it. Now if we go back to the functions.php file, you see that previously we were linking to the CDN for Cloudflare for the popper.min.js file. At this point, we're going to be actually hosting it locally on our website. So we're going to just take this section here, we're going to comment that out, and over here with tether, we're going to rename that DevWP-popper, and then we're going to be getting the file popper.min.js, which is located right there within our source folder and JavaScript folder. Why are we doing this? Well, because Tether is actually no longer supported by the original developers and is no longer being used by Bootstrap. So we no longer need that actual file. So we can go over here to tether.min.js and delete the file. Alright, so we just updated our Bootstrap, CSS, and JavaScript files. We added the popper.min.js and we deleted the tether.min.js file as well. Alright, so one thing you're going to notice over here is if you go back to the example, let's X out of that, Bootstrap's using a different version of jQuery. Now we're not going to be using this exact version because it'll cause some issues potentially with some other plugins or other ways that WordPress works. So we're not going to be using that one, but we are going to change the way we use jQuery. So we're going to go back to our text editor, and right over here in this section, right above the enqueue scripts and styles, what I'm going to do is add some additional code here. And we're going to be getting the version of jQuery that we're going to need from a CDN. So we're going to the googleapi.com, and this is the link right there. So the way we do that is over here, we're going to be typing out, we're going to leave ourselves a comment. We're going to create a function. DevWP underscore include underscore custom underscore jQuery. And we're going to be using a if conditional. The reason why we're doing this is because we don't want to affect how the WordPress dashboard works with jQuery. We only want to impact the front end of the site itself. So we're going to type out if space parentheses exclamation point, because we're going to be checking to make sure that it's not in the dashboard. And the way you do that is by typing out is underscore admin with another set of parentheses. So if we're not in the WordPress dashboard, we're going to be running this code. We're going to deregister script. And the script we're going to deregister is jQuery. And then we're going to enqueue our own version. Outside that single quotation mark, put in your comma. We're going to take that link over here. Put single quotation marks and put in that link. Outside of that single quotation mark, put in a comma. Type out array, and then comma, and then null, and then false. Then outside that closing parentheses, put in your semicolon. So what we're doing here is we're saying that we're going to include jQuery within the head section of our website instead of in the footer section. Now this does make it render blocking, but it's important that you have jQuery 1 first before any of the other files that are going to be dependent on it. There's ways around that, but that gets into a more advanced video, and I'll do that at a later point in time. Alright, so just save the file, and let's see what's changed. Go back over here. We're going to reload our browser. We're going to inspect elements, make sure we have no errors. And if you go over here, you see it's still calling in the older version of jQuery. The reason why that's happening is because we probably have some cache that we have to get rid of. It says we have an error over here. Let's take a look at that. All right, so it's telling us we have an uncaught type error, cannot read property fn of undefined. All right, so let's take a look at our functions.php file again. All right, so I already see what the problem is. So we're going to go down here below this closing curly brace, go to a new line. We're going to type out add action, parentheses, put in some single quotation marks, type out init. Outside that single quotation mark, put in a comma, space, another set of single quotation marks. And we're going to take this function name right there, copy it, and paste it right there. Outside the parentheses, put your semicolon, save it, and then let's see if that fixes the error. Let's go back to the browser and reload. And now we no longer have that error. So if we go back to the head section, as you can see, now we're using the version of jQuery from Google APIs. All right, so now what I want to do is, let's close this out. I'm going to go over here and let's go to our dashboard. If you have any updates, just update it because you want to make sure that any changes you make are going to be compatible with WordPress and the latest version of it. All right, so now everything's up to date. We're going to go to Appearance and Theme Check. We're going to check it. We're getting this warning over here because we're deregistering the script of jQuery and the custom header. Reason why we deregistered the custom header is because in a previous video, I showed you how to add some functionality to make your videos provide sound and not to auto start. Now what you could do is you can take all this code, wrap it into a plugin, and take it out of the theme and just install your plugin. And I'll do that in another series where I show you how to create a WordPress plugin. But for now, this is fine. If we go over here towards the bottom, it says that there's possible hard-coded links within the footer.php file. All right, so we're going to take care of that. Let's go find our footer.php file. And this is what we're going to work with over here. So to make things go faster, I'm just going to take this whole entire footer section right here, and delete that, and paste in the code that we need. All right, so what we did was we changed out the footer code and we implemented our theme link in a way that's going to be compatible with the theme check plugin. So you want to save that file, take a look at this, pause the video if you have to, and just copy the code from here. Where within our footer element over here, we have the ID of Caliphon, the class site footer row, role is content info. We have our div, a class of site info, 12 columns. We have our anchor element over here for the WordPress link, and then we're duplicating that over here after our span by creating another anchor tag with our link to our website. All right, so if we go back to the browser and if we check it again, you see that error goes away. All right, so now what I want to do is I'm going to go over here to my YouTube channel. I'm going to go to my video manager and I'm just going to grab this video over here. I'm going to go back over here. Let me look at one of the posts. I'm going to go to this, I'll go to this post right here. I'm going to edit the page. And what I'll do is over here, let me just give it some space and I'll paste in that URL. All right, so it brings up the video. So we'll update the file. Actually, let me put a little indicator over here. Update the file. And we're going to view the post. All right, so it's there now. All right, so now I'm just going to do that. I want to see how it looks as we adjust the screen size. All right, so we're going to definitely want to work with that. So I'm going to give you a function now that we could use and some CSS to make this look more appealing. And what I'll do is I'll take this link and I'm going to open up in a new tab. I'll bring it side by side. Reason is because I'm going to show you the before and after for this. All right, so let's go back to our code editor. Inside of our includes folder over here, let's go to the template functions.php file. And we're going to scroll to the bottom. Right there after line 35. Go to a new line, put in a comment. Responsive video embed code. And what we're going to do here is we're going to add a filter. Some parentheses, single quotation mark, embed underscore or embed underscore HTML, comma, another set of quotation marks right there. We're going to put in wrap, embed with div, put a comma after that single quotation mark, and then we're going to put in 10 and 3. Put in a semicolon, and now we're going to create the function over here. We're creating this function. So just copy that, and then type out function, paste that function, put your parentheses. Inside of there, we're going to put in the $HTML, $URL, $attribute. So make sure you have your commas in between those. There's a comma separator list over here. Outside that parentheses right there, put your curly braces, go to a new line, type out return, double quotation marks. I'm going to put div space class equals / because you want to escape the next set of double quotation marks we're going to be using. Responsive container. Alright, just pause the video if you have to. Just make sure you have your double quotation marks. Make sure you escape this double quotation mark. So if you want, you can use a single quotation mark there. And make sure you escape this one as well. Putting in a period there. And then we're going to concatenate $HTML, period, quotation marks, close off that div. Alright, so that looks good. So what we'll do now is we'll go to our style sheet. We're going to put in the CSS for that. I'm going to navigate down to about line 600. Look for the media section. You want to keep your code, your CSS organized. So right about here, we can put it right here above the caption section. What I'll do is I'll copy and paste the code and explain to you what it's doing. So right under the custom logo link, right here, I'm pasting this code in. And what I'm doing is I'm creating the class of responsive container, giving it a position of relative, padding bottom, padding top, height, overflow hidden, margin bottom. And the same thing for responsive container, iframe, position absolute, top 0, left 0, width 100%, and height 100%. So save that file and make sure you save the other one as well. Let's go back to the browser. So remember, I have two versions of it here. I'm going to reload this one right here. Alright, so let's see what changed. See if I have to eliminate some cache. Alright, so you see it looks a little bit different. It looks more proportional based on the thumbnail from YouTube itself. If you go over here, you don't see that border element on that side, but you see it here. Alright, so now let's resize this window. And you see how it refactors properly. Versus over here, it just got squished. So that's a poor user experience if a person's coming from a tablet or a smartphone or a smaller device. That doesn't look as good as this over here. Alright, so now we have our responsive video enabled within our theme. Alright, so let's go back to that diff checker. Let's reload this. We see we have some additional things here because I do use gulp on my development environment. And I'll talk about that in a minute. We do have to remove the normalize.scss file because we're not going to be needing that. So if you go back to your text editor, go to the SAS section, we could remove this file. The reason is because Bootstrap already has a reset built into it, so you don't need the duplicate code. If you go over here, we already took out the normalize from here. Let's reload this again. See, it's gone. We already took out tether, so that's good. That's fine because this is the old version of how I included the popper script by using the CDN from Cloudflare, but we're not going to be using that. Everything else here is good to go. All right, so let's go to the style.css file, and we're going to compare the changes here. We'll take a look at some of the important elements that we have to change to keep things consistent. We're going to be adding some table margin and width. We're going to be adding the comments link class over here to the cat links and tags links. Over here, I'm going to actually put in a comma right here. And make sure you save it. That's what's good about Meld Merge. It's also a text editor, so you can make changes directly within the files. So I'll just take this change and I'll put it to the right. Make sure they're both the same and save them both. And I'll do the same thing over here. I'll just copy this, go over here, put in a comma, and then paste. Save it on this side, and then transfer it over to the right and save there. We could take this one out because we put it on top. This table over here. And then we're going to change the margin on the H1 and H2 entry title. Make sure you save that. Scroll further down. We're going to add some width to the input elements of our form elements. For the secondary nav, and this is when you're in the sidebar. So if we go over here in the sidebar, if you have a navigation towards the bottom, we're going to add this ID class of secondary and then .nav and just save that. Now for accessibility, we're going to be changing some of the stuff up, and this is the changes that came in with the underscores change. So they made changes to their accessibility file, and you can see the changes they made right here on their GitHub repository. So we're going to be implementing those into our theme as well. Save those. Copy that to the left. Now remember, this is our local version that's affecting the actual theme that we're viewing over here. We're going to change the margins up a little bit. Change that up. And now over here on the bottom, I have this source maps URL. We're not going to transfer this over because this is a standard style sheet. And you want to take a look at the code for the Sass files. They're over here within the Sass folder right here. So you go to Sass, and these are the various sections of your CSS file that's generated by your preprocessor. Gulp is the task runner, so is Grunt, and there's a couple of other ones out there as well that are pretty popular. But you'll be able to see the changes that I made here. You'll process the files, and it'll generate your style.css file. And that's it. We made all the changes that we needed to our DevWP training theme. We updated the style.css file itself. We used Meld Merge in order to compare the before and after. You're going to find this to be very handy if you want to see what's changed within this folder or files, or any folders and files that you're working on. You can even see the changes made within the WordPress core or any of the other themes and plugins you're working with. So this tool is definitely going to be helpful. We also added the support for the responsive video. See that over here, or readjust the size of the display port. We changed the way we use jQuery within our functions.php file. We took out tether, which we no longer need, and we put in popper.min.js locally. Now remember, I got that from using the Bootstrap examples over here, and choose any of the ones over here, view page source, and then you'll see the code that they're using. The reason why I'm doing it this way is because they're using a version that works well with Bootstrap itself. You might get some errors if you use any of the other versions. We also updated our bootstrap.min.css file to the beta.2 and the JavaScript file to the beta.2. And we changed how our footer link is being handled so that way it doesn't cause an issue with the theme check plugin. If you need or want to get the files in advance, you can head over to my website, which is pixemweb.com. Click on this link over here, and it'll take you to the purchase form for DevWP. That way you'll have all the files and folders to work with as you view the code being written out within this video. You'll get the most up-to-date version, and it'll streamline your learning experience. And also don't forget to check out this video over here to learn how to code a WordPress theme development tutorial. This is the foundation for DevWP. Alright, so hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.